The sanctuary ship Astral Haven housed over 300 species, but none were as delicate as the Rithian cubs. Their crystalline bodies shimmered with internal light, beautiful and fragile. When the rescue team found them drifting in an abandoned cargo vessel, the cubs were huddled together, their lights flickering with terror. Director Velna, a towering Korthax with 4 arms and centuries of experience, approached the holding bay with confidence. She had rehabilitated countless traumatized younglings. These cubs would be no different. She was wrong. The moment the door slid open, the cubs' lights blazed white with panic. They scattered to the corners, their crystalline bodies making distressed, chiming sounds. The smallest ones began to crack under the stress, hairline fractures appearing across their translucent skin. Velna retreated immediately, her confidence shaken. Dr. Horvath tried next. The Zinthari physician was renowned for his gentle touch and soothing pheromones. He entered slowly, speaking in soft tones, releasing calming chemicals into the air. The cubs responded by dimming their lights completely, becoming nearly invisible in their terror. One collapsed, its internal light guttering like a dying star. They barely revived it in time. Species after species attempted contact. The empathic Salvari, who could feel and ease emotional pain. The Methuri, whose singing could calm the most vicious predators. The Kalish, whose telepathic touch could share comfort across any language barrier. All failed. The cubs grew weaker. They refused to eat, refused to drink. Their lights flickered more dimly each day. The medical staff measured their declining vital signs with growing desperation. At this rate, they had perhaps 4 days before the first deaths began. Kalen heard about the situation in the human quarters, 3 decks below the crisis. He was a maintenance technician, nobody important, just one of the handful of humans aboard the Astral Haven. He finished his shift repairing a faulty atmospheric regulator and headed to the observation deck that overlooked the holding bay that he watched through the transparent barrier as the medical team made another attempt. A gentle Felorian caretaker, fuzzy and soft, approached with food. The cubs reacted as they always did. Lights blazing with terror, bodies trembling. The smallest ones beginning to fracture again. Kalen saw something the others had missed. "They're not scared of you," he muttered to himself. "They're scared you're scared of them." He made his way to the medical bay. Director Velna was reviewing scans, her 4 arms moving frantically between displays. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked up when Kalen entered, surprise crossing her features. "Technician Kalen? This is a restricted area during the crisis. I think I can help," he said simply. Velna's expression shifted from surprise to something close to pity. "I appreciate the gesture, but we've had our best caregivers attempt contact. Species with natural empathic abilities, with centuries of experience. I don't see how. That's the problem," Kalen interrupted gently. "You're all too careful, too aware of how fragile they are. They can sense it. Of course we're careful. They're crystalline beings. One wrong touch could shatter them. The stress alone is causing fractures. And they know you think that," Kalen said. "Every species that's gone in there has been terrified of breaking them. The cubs feel that fear. It confirms what they already believe, that they're too fragile, too broken, too dangerous to be around. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to how you see them." Velna's forearms fell still. "That's an interesting theory. Let me try," Kalen said. "What's the worst that happens?" "They're already dying." After a long moment, Velna nodded. 5 minutes. At the first sign of stress, you retreat." Kalen entered the holding bay alone. The cubs were clustered in the far corner, their lights barely visible. He could see the fractures across their bodies, the way they trembled. They looked like living glass about to shatter. He sat down cross-legged in the center of the room and pulled out his datapad. He didn't approach them, didn't speak to them. He just sat there and started reading a book, occasionally taking a sip from his water bottle. The cubs watched him warily, their lights beginning to pulse with curiosity rather than fear. An hour passed. Then 2. Kalen shifted positions, stretched, yawned. He treated the space like his living quarters, casual and comfortable. He hummed softly to himself, some old earth song his grandmother used to sing. One of the cubs, slightly larger than the others, began to move. It crept forward, light pulsing in uncertain patterns. This was Vash, though Kalen didn't know it yet. The leader of the small group, the one who made decisions when the others were too afraid. Vash approached to within 3 meters. Kalen glanced up, smiled, and went back to his reading. No reaching out. No cooing. No treating Vash like a fragile thing that might break. Vash came closer. 1 meter. Half a meter. Close enough that Kalen could see the intricate patterns of light moving through the cub's crystalline body. Beautiful and strong, not fragile at all when you really looked. "Hey there," Kalen said softly, not moving. "Rough few days, huh?" Vash's light pulsed in a pattern that seemed almost like a response. The cub extended a crystalline appendage, touching Kalen's hand. The contact sent a small jolt through Kalen's fingers. Not painful, just unexpected. Like touching a live wire carrying joy instead of electricity, Kalen smiled. "Yeah, I feel you too." Vash settled beside him. Within minutes, the other cubs began to approach. They clustered around Kalen, their lights growing brighter and steadier. The fractures in their bodies stopped spreading. The smallest cub, the one that had nearly died earlier, climbed into Kalen's lap and began to hum, a sound like crystal chimes in a gentle wind. Outside the observation window, the entire medical staff stood in stunned silence. "How?" Dr. Horvath whispered. Director Velna watched Kalen laugh as one of the cubs tried to read his data pad upside down. "He doesn't see them as fragile," she said quietly. "He sees them as children. Strong enough to play, strong enough to be silly, strong enough to heal. And they can feel the difference." Kalen spent the next 3 days in the holding bay. He brought games, toys, books. He played with the cubs like they were any other children. Gently, yes, but without the paralyzing fear of breaking them. He let them climb on him, tug at his uniform, investigate his belongings with their crystalline appendages. Vash became his shadow, translating Kalen's intentions to the other cubs through pulses of light and harmonic chimes. The leader had found someone worth following. The cubs began to eat. Their lights grew brighter. The fractures healed, their crystalline bodies growing stronger and more resilient. They started playing with each other again, their chiming laughter filling the holding bay with music that on the 4th day, Dr. Horvath cautiously entered the bay. The cubs tensed, but Vash looked at Kalen, then back at the doctor. Kalen was calm, so perhaps this newcomer was safe. Horvath watched Kalen's body language, relaxed, confident, treating the cubs with casual affection. He tried to mirror it. To his amazement, the cubs allowed him to approach. One even let him perform a medical scan. Soon, other caregivers learned the technique. Don't treat them like glass. Treat them like children who are strong enough to survive, strong enough to play, strong enough to heal. Within a week, the Rithian cubs were thriving. They had bonded with several caregivers, but Vash remained closest to Kalen. Whenever the human visited, the cub leader would rush to greet him, lights blazing with joy. Director Velna found Kalen in the observation deck one evening, watching the cubs play with their new caretakers. "You saved them," she said, "not with technology or empathic powers, just by seeing them differently." Kalen shrugged. "I just treated them like kids. Kids are tougher than we think. They don't need us to protect them from everything. They need us to believe they're strong enough to handle the world." "Is that a human philosophy?" "I don't know if it's specifically human," Kalen said, "but maybe it's something we're good at. We've spent our whole history being told we're too weak, too fragile, too primitive. We learned early that being underestimated and being weak aren't the same thing." Below them, Vash was teaching the younger cubs a game Kalen had shown them, a human children's game involving hiding and seeking. Their lights pulsed with excitement and laughter. "They were terrified of everyone except you," Velna said. "Now I understand why. You were the only one who wasn't terrified of them."